Welcome to Player Driven. Here's what you're about to listen to on today's episode. Today we are talking to Alex Seropian. Alex is the co-founder of Bungie, and more recently he is the founder of the studio Look North World. They are building UGC, which is user-generated content in Fortnite, using the tool called UEFN, which is Unreal Editor for Fortnite. It's really cool to see how different types of creators from AAA to indie are taking these projects live on UEFN across the massive player base that Epic has built up. It's a really cool story and a great fanboy moment to be able to talk to the founder of Bungie, who's created amazing hits such as Halo. It's a really fun conversation. If you haven't liked or followed Player Driven yet, please check us out on Spotify or Apple or YouTube and all the platforms where you could find your YouTube stuff. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to the Player Driven Podcast. Greg here. Today we have an episode I'm very excited about. We are joined by Alex Seropian. He is the founder of Look North World, and he has also started studios that you may have heard of, such as Bungie. He's been a part of Industrial Toys. He worked at Disney. He's done so much in the gaming industry. He's done so much with community and just building games we all know. And I'm super excited to talk more about what he's doing now at Look North World and how he's building UGC with UEFN and all this cool stuff. Before we dive too much into it, Alex, thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything you'd like to say about yourself?
Well, thanks for having me, Greg. And thrilled to be here. I think you hit a lot of the highlights there. I'm also a father of three. It was Father's Day this weekend, and there's just a lot of odd parallels between raising kids and starting companies. But excited to get into it with you today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I hope you had a great Father's Day. You have created some amazing things in your life. And I don't want to harp too much on it because you talk a lot about your past, and there's little bits of the past I want to talk that connects to what you're building now. You are building Look North World, which is focused on building experiences within the Fortnite ecosystem. And I think it's a fascinating time to be a game creator when you can take a look at a platform that's not just Windows or Mac. You're looking at a place where people live already. And what you're trying to do is create a unique experience from within there. So now we're in this world where you've created AAA games, you've created UGC. Where do you think yourself that the future of innovation is going to continue to happen in gaming?
Uh, well, that's a big question, and it's one that I've thought about a lot. And I know a lot of people have been thinking about it over the last few years. As the industry, our industry is amazing because it constantly evolving, and it's part of what makes opportunity so like there's so many opportunities in the game industry because it evolves so quickly. It evolves so often in these sort of like cycles, and innovation just in general, innovation's like this word that can mean a lot of things or it can mean nothing, but where new ideas tend to come from are places that support experimenting, support uh, not having to kind of like manage these big investments with low risk, which is what the big companies do. The big companies invest hundreds of millions of dollars to make games. If you're Microsoft or if you're EA or Take Two, they're going to get Grand Theft Auto 6 right, and they're putting a lot of money into it. But what that means is the new stuff, which is not doesn't fit an existing model. The innovation, it tends to come from places where it's okay to take risk. And what does that mean? Okay to take risk? Well, that means maybe you don't put all your eggs in one basket, or you're not sort of accountable to some big, huge corporate machine. And these platforms, UEFN is one. I would say Roblox is another. These platforms really support that kind of experimentation. And they're also coupled with a user base and a creative base, uh, which is pretty young, which is also a place where you tend to get new ideas, places where people aren't sort of immersed in pattern fatigue. So, um, Where will innovation come in the game industry going forward? Well, probably a lot of places, but I definitely think, and this is something that really attracted me to building in this space. I definitely think platforms like UEFN, platforms like Roblox, these platforms where you can move really quickly, you can try a lot of things. We made 20 games last year. That's insane. Um, we're going to definitely see a lot of innovation coming out of those platforms.
Innovation's one important aspect of it. The other one is discoverability. And in this time where we are, right, a lot of new indie games are coming out, and it's super exciting. But one, they're all competing for time, which most of our time is probably in Fortnite or Roblox anyway. The second thing they're competing with is Steam, which Steam has a lot of great stuff going for it. The problem is it has a lot of stuff going for it. So you got to be found. So now you're building these experiences on UEFN or Roblox, and it's a different type of discoverability issue, right? Because most people, maybe not most people, maybe I'm just getting older now and it's a different lens for me, but most people know the game Fortnite for Battle Royale, right? How is discoverability different from an indie game or Steam, sorry, versus UEFN, or do you not see much of a difference there?
Well, um, another big question. A couple of ways to look at that. I would say the specific question about UEFN, you're right. Players go to Fortnite to play Battle Royale. So there's a certain kind of player there already. So if you're making stuff and you want to be discoverable to that audience, well, that's a factor and you need to put that into consideration. Um, but I would say there are parallels on any sort of content driven platform, and you could, in a broad sense, that's anything, that's Netflix is a content driven platform, right? Any of those platforms, there's only more and more content coming every day. It's getting easier and easier to make things. That's a good thing. That's a plus, right? So, and there's more and more of these channels and platforms for that are competing for people's time. So, just discoverability of good content has gotten more and more challenging, both for the consumer and the creator, every year because there's just more and more and more stuff. So is that good? Well, I mean, I think it's good. I think it's good because we have more choice, as game players or TV watchers or whatever. And there's if I'm a creator, there's more opportunity. But it does mean that that power curve, that power curve. That's sort of like on a platform like the top 1% makes all the money and the bottom 99% makes nothing. Uh, that curve gets really challenging from a commercial perspective. Back when I started in this industry in the 90s, there were a lot of gates you had to go through to get a product into market. You had to be able to make a game, which was difficult. You had to manufacture it, which was expensive. You had to put it in a store. So that's not digital shelf space, that's actual physical real estate. So there's only a certain number of slots, that you have to compete for. Once you were there was traffic and you're going to sell some product, and if it was good, you're going to sell more. And that was a predictable and uh, could be really good business model, commercial business model. Today, it's different. It's like it's way less expensive and easier to get to a point of sale, but you're competing, like you say, discoverability is the big thing. Competing gets so much other content that 99% is it's challenging. So the topic of discoverability, like where does it go from here? I think that's the real question. Is as it gets easier and easier to make content, and let me tell you, it is getting. We're going to see some really like. I mean, if you've been watching like the videos from VO, it's like that is mind blowing, and that's just like version one of that thing. It's like so. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. It's definitely a question that we think about a lot because we are operating in this space. My hope is that quality wins the day. Like like the best. I think Ed Catmull phrase, or maybe it was Lassiter. The best business model is quality. And I
It's
think maybe that gets more and more important as uh, accessibility to creativity gets easier and easier.
I think, as you say that, I think about streaming, and you have Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and all this stuff where there's more and more content and our brains are filling up and we can't consume that much because there's only 24 hours in a day. And it's the first thing that you said there was when you were talking about was good. And I'm trying to think that I think the definition of a good game is also changed, right? You used to look at kind of a nice polished game. It was released, right? And it was done. And now when you go into Roblox, you see, for lack of better words, some crap games that are just spiking to the top. And we're in this world of content creators and influencers and people trying to push their own whatever, right? And it's like, this isn't even a good game, yet it's on the top. Like, why is this staying here? And it's just this frustration. And maybe I'm wrong, but am I making this up where you're like, good doesn't necessarily mean good. Sometimes there's lucky, sometimes there's timing, sometimes there's just the right people are seeing it at the right time.
Yeah, all of that stuff is a factor, but um, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. If people are attracted to something, they're playing it, they're enjoying it, they're liking it, they're sharing it, then does that not make the definition of good?
That's a fair and valid point, right? I guess it's different strokes for different folks.
Well, I mean, it's generational as well. These Roblox in particular is a younger uh, audience, and every generation, what's cool to that generation is confusing to the older generation, and what's good to the older generation is crap to the new generation, right? That's a societal thing. That's a truth of human evolution. What my kids think is hilarious is like, and what I think is awesome is like, dad rock or whatever. It's like, and that's good. That's good. That's evolution.
How do you, Alex, deal with something? And maybe it's, I'm going to take a step back. My wife and I were having a conversation about music this weekend and how the music these days is kind of crap compared to the music of our time. And I was just like, you know what? It's all a symptom of when you grew up, your experiences, right? And well, I don't disagree. I'm in that age bracket where I like that dad rock, right? This new stuff. And do you find it tougher to make games for kids or younger generations because maybe it's hard to see through their lenses?
uh perhaps. And my approach, I have a couple of um ways of thinking about the at least the kind of content that I want to make, kind of games I want to make, the kind of games my studio is going to make. One is I, I'm going to make what appeals to me. That's just my way. Uh, and I am a forever student. So I'm going to work on things where I'm going to learn something. Um, I'm going to get better at a particular element of the craft, and that's what I personally will invest my time creating. Uh, that said, I am part of a studio, and the role that I play in the studio is I play many roles, but one of them is a manager. And I don't make all of our games, which is a good thing. And we are building our team in our studio with folks who are passionate about creating on these platforms, and we have a pretty diverse group of creators. Different ages, genders, points of view, walks of life, and we can operate at kind of like at a publisher scale because these games are so small. Like I said, we shipped I think over 20 games last year, so we can try a lot of things and support a lot of folks being creative in the studio along the way. Whether they work directly for us or whether they're another studio we partner with, or whether they're a creator from the community that we're supporting. And that's, I think, also like I think super cool about these platforms is that you can try a lot of stuff, experiment, and learn really quickly.
When you're launching that many games, What is it? I mean, you work with Hasbro, you work with Bandai Namco, you have these great partnerships, great games that people recognize, and then you have to ship these games, you build them. What's it like getting feedback from players? You know, is it the same life cycle of a game as you would have seen 20 years ago? Is the life cycle shortened based on the feedback?
I mean, it runs the gamut. It behave These platforms behave, behave more like, they are a live service platform. Fortnite, Roblox are free to play. Fortnite in particular is, at least from a commercial perspective, is entirely supported by engagement. So, we're trying to build games that players will, come back to every day and play forever. So uh, sometimes that works, which means you're kind of listening to the feedback constantly and supporting a game week over week, month over month. And sometimes it doesn't. And you have to decide, okay, what did we learn here? All right, let's roll that into something new. Or what did we learn? Is there something we can apply to what we built to uh, make it, more interesting? And I think, you mentioned Bandai. It's a great example. We made a game with a Gundam game with them that released around the same time as they did a Netflix movie, and we built what we thought players would like, and it did pretty good for a short amount of time, and we kind of listened to that audience and refactored it as in a native Fortnite genre, like a red versus blue game, and when we re-released it based on that feedback, it did even better, and it was pretty sticky. So yeah, it is a lot. These platforms are like they're, it's not like a paid download one and done. It's a relationship, constantly listening. How do we actually talk to our and listen to our players? But there are channels on these platforms for us to get direct feedback. We also operate, we operate a community Discord where we're streaming, we're doing game events, and just trying to build a relationship with our players. That's the thing that's really important to what we're doing as well, is having a place for our audience to come and connect with each other, connect with us, um, as we build the company.
So, something I've learned through this podcast is the concept of pillars and how different studios have these pillars that they kind of build upon. And I'm curious if you have that concept of pillars at Look North World, and does that start to change as the platform and how you learn that platform works, right? Or like maybe you go into that first UEFN game thinking X is going to happen, but Y happens, and you got to shift your whole thinking. Like, are there any major learnings you have that are kind of become company pillars because of how these platforms differentiate?
um, Definitely. I mean, like, we started off with a pretty simple premise of, um, let's build games that are better than expected. um, and uh, I, I think that's a great, you know, like, a goal is, you can set an expectation for what you're going to deliver, get people excited about, and then you over deliver on that, and that's a great recipe for delighting your players, being successful. And it does um, take a very subjective viewpoint of assuming that you know what players at least expect. If you want to, if you want to exceed expectations, you have to define what that expectation is. And when we started, it was, we started right when UEFN came out. Our assumption of a player expectation on the platform was wrong by, I don't know, two or three viewpoints. The thing that you identified, just as an observer right off the bat, genius. Everybody on here is playing battle royale. Okay, well, that's an expectation right there. Do players want to come and play something entirely different? Maybe over time, but in the beginning, maybe you want to, like, not take too many steps away from the core experience. um, and another is, like, what is the value of production value? Us coming from more of a AAA background, we have our own ideas of what quality means. And back to our little conversation about, what does define good. there's a certain level of production value that you would expect, say, in a console game that is sort of like diminished returns on a platform like a UEFN or Roblox, where it's really about quick, fast social gameplay, and a little less about um, the most amazing, inviting vista of 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 a scene that you can imagine. So yeah, we still operate with that mindset of, we always endeavor to deliver something better than expectations, but where we've evolved and learned along the way is, okay, where do we ground that flag of what the expectations really are to help us point, what to focus on as we're building.
Was community always top of the list? Like you knew from the beginning, community has to be aspect, or did it start to
Pretty much
realize?
number one. Pretty
Yeah.
much number one. Like the whole well, whatever. There's a lot of things that we've learned about what's happening in the game industry relative to these platforms that are forming our long term strategy. But we don't own the platform. You know, we own the IP of the games that we make, and if we're smart, we have a relationship with our players where we can grow that audience over time and really do something special for a group of people. So that community is as important to us as the IP, as the games that we're making. Number the top two things that we consider as our goals as a company.
Cool. Usually about halfway through, I like to do a fireball round where I'm just going to throw questions to you. Don't put any thought into it. Good to
Okay.
go.
Hot take.
All right. Well, you'll
How
see.
how about
Favorite
this? All
question.
right.
People don't like it. What did you have for breakfast?
Ate no breakfast today. I did not have. I usually do eat breakfast, but today I'm recovering from kind of being overserved yesterday. So
Yeah.
no
What was your
breakfast today.
great question? What was Father's Day dinner?
Oh, we had a shish kebab feast yesterday with everything. Lula kebab, chicken kebab. Pilaf, the grilled vegetables, hummus, tzatziki. It
Life was
was
good.
off the charts. Yeah,
All right. If you were a kid in college today, you were just talking about how easy games are becoming. What would you choose to study?
art.
Can't go wrong with art. We'll always need artists in the world. What is the last show or movie you binged watched?
Succession.
Alex let me know before the podcast that I am here wearing my Jets shirt and we are not a good football team, but he is a Bears fan. Who will have the better record this year?
Oh, 100% Bears. Like, I'm really excited about this season. It's like we got a couple years under the our new star players, and a new coach, and yeah, it's good. This is going to be a good year. Mind you, that sentence has been said every year since I got out of college, but
As a
this year.
Jets fan, I've seen all my number one QBs go to other teams over the years, and they've all come back and kicked my butt. I actually went to London. I saw Sam Darnold beat us, and whatever,
Okay.
Smith. Now we have your ex QB, and this is our opportunity to rise. All right, back to our normal scheduled program. So I promised really not to talk about Bungie, but I wanted to bring it up for two little ish ones. The first one is community and how Bungie is community and how it was specifically for me, right? I was alive in the world of Xbox One and Halo 1 came out. It was just mind boggling. We'd sit in our house, we'd have the hub set up in the central part of the house, we'd have things go everywhere. What was so cool is that, this was local multiplayer. You could play with anyone. Then GameSpy came out and created this whole tunneling feature where people go hook their Xbox up to their computer, launch GameSpy, and connect with people across the world to play Halo. And I know Dreamcast was online, but Halo was that first online experience for a console that I think everyone started to play. And the truth was, this was the start of multiplayer and community to me. And it was so cool to be able to play people on with my big bulky Duke controller across the world, talking to people with baby voices on their filter. And it was just magic that someone was able to figure out how you can do this without the existence of Xbox Live. And did you have any concept of the community or any of this stuff that was going to be when this was all happening, or was this like a holy shit type of moment?
You know, a little of each. Like we had been doing multiplayer games for a long time. It definitely was DNA the studio back to we had this game Minotaur, which is like the second game we ever made, which you had to have a modem to play. But that kind of um, co-op competitive multiplayer part of our games was always part of the culture of even the development process. Like that's how we would really test the games, is by standing up multiplayer first, um, and frustrating each other. You'd have those pain points where something wasn't working right, and you'd have to get out of your chair and go have a really serious conversation with a programmer because something just was not working right. And so multiplayer is super important. For the first Halo, there was we wanted to do more than we were able to do. We made a bunch of compromises, and the fact that the community and the internet in general sort of like kind of patched over the limitations of what we were able to achieve, that was surprising. um, but the fact that people got excited about it, I mean, the scale of how everything worked out was way beyond any expectations. But the fact that some of that stuff was appealing to a certain audience, that was sort of the hope, you know.
Uh, Again, I thank you, because countless hours of my childhood and in college, we would all just still set it up. And I think it was one of those moments that you'll never forget in gaming. There's a few things I always think of Mario 64, but connecting Halo and being able to play 16 people, everyone on TV,
That
was
is
just,
that's awesome. That's
it was
awesome.
wild.
It never gets old to hear, when I meet somebody who's had a formative experience with a game that I've worked on. It's the most flattering. It's it's the best feel good moment of, better than any review, chart position, anything like that. It's like having an impact is why we do this.
And then on not the flip side, but the other point was that you worked on the soundtrack for Marathon. I think you did all the music maybe for Marathon.
The first
And
one, yeah.
I've noticed a trend where a lot of these really successful studio game directors started and did the music and soundtracks for games. Is this like a it's funny that you mentioned art as the thing that you went to school for, or you go like, is music still a passion, or is it the passion? And like, I don't know, is there just some weird thing going on where musicians are the ones that are creating the best games out there?
I haven't heard that before. What I'll say is, I love to make things. I love uh, craft and the creative process, and conjuring something up out of nothing. And for me, music was super appealing for that reason. I grew up taking piano lessons. I played a lot of guitar. I'm not a fantastic musician, but the craft of creating music uh, is uh, is really, I really enjoy it, and it's not all that different for me than programming, or woodworking, which is my other hobby, or cooking, which is another hobby of mine, where you assemble things in with a particular idea in mind, and you get an enjoyable outcome that you can share with others. Is I mean that I didn't I didn't have to do the music. I wanted to do the music. I guess nobody else was going to do it.
So you kind of,
Yeah.
when you have the chance to retire and be done, is there one of those specific hobbies that you're still going to want to do? Is there still a passion for any of them?
Um, if you asked me that question a few months ago, I probably would have said woodworking, which I will always do. I love I love the physicality of building things that are physical. Over the last 6 months, so I've really kind of gotten back into more coding. Um, I would say a lot because of what modern coding is like today with like AI kind of co-piloting. It makes the learning process of like picking up a new language or implementing some sort of API or system that you're not familiar with really accessible. So I feel like there's a lot more for me to explore uh, on the programming side. So you know both of those things. I'll have an indoor and well, I guess woodworking is sort of outdoor, but I have my garage open when I do it. So let's just say I'll have an indoor and an outdoor activity to be working on.
I I love the woodworking answer. Actually, I was never hands on, but I wanted to build my own desk, so I built my desk. Kind of you stain it,
Nice.
you sand it, you kind of. It's a very good process, and I feel like it's one of those tools that once you learn how to do it, like you want to keep going because you want to just keep buying more tools and doing more things. And with the language, I've heard the same thing in Duolingo. Actually, Duolingo on the stock perspective is doing really well right now because they've realized that language is really great to learn via AI with an assistant there. And I'm coding is just another language in another
Yep.
form. So
Yeah.
I think there's a huge opportunity for people who are in school or any age, right, to say, hey, I can start learning this, and it's going to be super quick and super easy to really get started here. And I think kids these days have a really cool opportunity here to really take advantage of learnings and being able to do something with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when YouTube came on the scene, it like early days, it was a little hard to see what kind of impact it would have um, on the world, and also me particularly today. If you look at what YouTube is as a platform, in some ways it has been one of the most impactful educational tools um, ever. People pick up new skills, learn from each other, share and teach each other through video on a platform like YouTube. And I think we're going to see something even more powerful with AI, where that learning can become even more self-directed and accelerated. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I've been experimenting with my podcast on what's the best information way to share information with people. Some people like to read, some people like to listen, some people like shorts, some people like infographics. And it's always a interesting thing on how are people going to continuously learn, because even myself right now that I'm a little older than I was when I first started working, like I used to spend hours just researching forums trying to see how things work, and then you get more responsibilities and you have kids and a family, and then like you become time poor and you have less time to learn. So if I were to ask you, Alice, what's the best way you learn, what would be your answer?
um, well, I guess I would say a couple things. One is don't be afraid to try. So there's a lot of things that I sometimes sometimes I'm like, oh, I I have an idea, oh, but it seems hard, um, and those are usually the things where there's a lot of learning on the other side for you if you can kind of just power through the initial learning curve or whatever and kind of get into something. You come out with a much deeper understanding of that sort of area. So that's one. Don't be afraid. um, and then the other is go go in manageable steps. It's a lot easier to hit a goal if you take small steps towards it. And yeah, so I don't know.
I think that latter's feedback people need to hear more often is that eh, they try and conquer Rome in a day. They try and do as much as they can, or they start with the hardest thing, thinking, "Hey, I'll reverse engineer this," right? And I've learned that, and I'm trying to learn how to create stuff as well. Like if you set manageable milestones and tasks, like at the end of the day, you can say, "I completed this," and when you can check that thing off your day, it's like, "What did you do today?" Well, I completed phase one of this project, right? It gets much more exciting knowing that you completed it rather than having to climb a mountain in an entire day.
For sure.
What changes have you seen in the gaming industry that excite you the most?
let me give you two answers to that question. There's the sort of the historical kind of obvious things which are very exciting, like 3D graphics in the internet. If you just think about like how games work today, I think we take a lot for granted, and that all the connectivity is on is on this side of the year 2000, pretty much, and it's opened up a whole new like this a ton of different kind of genres, ton of different kinds of ways for people to play with each other, a globalization of games, and the elevation of gaming from the basement hobby to a mainstream force um, for fun, for meeting people, and just culture in general. Um, if so, that's my obvious sort of historical answer. The What's happening today. I'll tell you, I am pretty excited about, and this is the self-serving answer too. I'm pretty excited about where we're working, because games. When I got started, games like we were talking about this before. You'd have to like put them on a disc. You'd make a CD-ROM or even diskettes if you're as old as me, and you'd have to put it in a store, and that was like the retail sort of like economy of games. And then the sort of the internet and the apps era has really dominated. I think mobile is something like 60% of the game industry, is really kind of dominated how people discover and consume. And today we're starting to see, and I really think this is a thing, another evolution, and this is what we call as the platform economy, where a lot of creativity is happening inside these other games, inside on these platforms, and the creativity is coming from everywhere. And I think it's going to result in a lot of new play modalities that we haven't even discovered yet. And if you look at what's happening, I mean, I'll talk about Fortnite because we're in that ecosystem a lot. If you look at what's happening there with Disney coming in with Star Wars and all the other IP and content that's all entirely interoperable, could you even have imagined as a kid that, oh, there'll be this place online that we can hang out, and Spider-Man's gonna be there, it's alongside Batman, yeah, and Luke, and you can fly an X-wing, you could do all this stuff, right? And that would be like the plot of Lawnmower Man or Ready Player One. And you would laugh just like you're laughing. It's like, yeah, yeah, that'd be cool. It's never gonna happen. And it's now the metaverse. We don't call it the metaverse because I don't know why that word's got so much stink on it, but that's kind of where what's happening. Is that
I
exciting? Yeah, heck yeah, that's kind of exciting.
I agree with you. The truth is, Fortnite is the metaverse that people spoke about. You have different skins from different games coming in. They're enabling you to bring it into the UEFN creators games or Rocket League or Legos, right? The beauty of these technologies is when you stop using the term that people are coining for it, like metaverse, right? It's just the next evolution of a game, right? Like, hey, it's a ability to use different things or different characters within a game, right? Like, it's super cool to see that happening, and Epic is just crushing it. I feel like, I mean, my best Father's Day gift I got was Bob's Burgers in Fortnite because I wanted to buy Bob's Burger, and like, it's just so cool to be able to see that happen, right? And I don't know if that becomes a problem further down the line when maybe Epic becomes too big for its own good. I don't think so, but who knows? But I think it's a super cool time for gaming, and I think it's cool for creators, right? I think what was better in gaming pre Xbox 360 timeframe when things were pretty much consistently online.
um, what was better? Okay, well, I can think of maybe a couple of things. One, team sizes were smaller, and is that better? Well, I mean, if you want to do like big, ambitious, rich, like super high production value stuff, well, maybe it's not better because you kind of need, you need a big team to be able to produce some of these amazing things. But there is something really attractive about going through a product cycle and a creative endeavor with a small, tight group of like-minded folks in a development team. So that's one thing. It's like the scale of the business has just changed a lot, and I really enjoy having that camaraderie with like in a manageable size team. So that's one thing. Um, and while the opportunities and accessibility and stuff is kind of like really off the charts today, it is pretty competitive. There's that in many different ways it's competitive for finding talent to work with. It's competitive for getting discovered in the sea of entertainment options, let alone just other games that are out there. And back pre whatever 2000, there were less choices for people, so if you were good at making something, maybe you had a better chance of connecting with the customer. So maybe those are a couple things. I'll give you two answers there, those two right there.
Perfect. What's the average team size for a team that's working on one of these games?
We have shipped games from a team of one up to a team of 8 or 9. And we have done some projects. In We don't have one like sort of like formula for how we make a game. Like the team of one projects, that's usually we're working with a creator. When we work with a creator, they're driving the project, but they're kind of doing it in we're on Discord. They're doing it in our Discord, and our team is sort of there to help. So that's kind of on the smaller side. A larger production would have like one of our teams, which is typically 5 people, um, and they may be working with a co-dev partner, which may add another 3 to 10 people. So we have done projects that are larger in scope, but they don't get that much bigger than that currently today.
That's not bad, right? Like you said, you could be agile and you have multiple projects going at a single time.
Yeah, that's it. That is part of the model for us, is the ability to kind of scale up, scale down when needed. Pretty agile and flexible.
Okay. I think that's most of the questions I have for you today, Alex. I do have one more since you didn't want to answer the hardest game to get to market. Which was the hardest platform to work on?
Oh well, that would be the early PlayStation 3,
Mm,
working on the Unreal Engine 3. I think it was Unreal Engine 3 on PlayStation 3. Where I think we're the first game to ship that platform on that engine, and lots of technical challenges.
that had that special, was it an IBM processor? It had some weird processor,
That
right?
I
That
had
just,
think that would have the cell. The Wasn't that the cell processor
or
that
I
would have
think so.
made?
Yeah, I know there
I
was.
don't know. I'm so old now. I could only remember. My memory's only in black and white. So it's like
I get it.
maybe.
I get you. You got the Master Chief helmet behind you, though, so you're still a kid at heart. There, I love that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Are you? You have 3 kids. You mentioned. Do you play games with them at all? Or
Well, I mean, we do play lots of games. Many of them are sort of like IRL physical games. Like we've got a long running euchre game going. Also, we play this card game called Wizard. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's one of the
on the
best card
Wizard?
games. It's kind of a non-standard. It's like a deck of real playing cards with a few extra cards in it, which is a lot of fun. We've done a couple of D&D campaigns. My son, who's in the middle, is a Valorant player, though he doesn't let me hang with him in Valorant. So
I
yeah,
get it, man. You got to keep
mostly
up.
cards. Yeah.
Kids are tough. My kid's 7 now, and he's we just started playing. I probably shouldn't let him play Fortnite, but we started playing it, and like he's doing better than me now. I'm like, oh, I'm in for trouble here. But it's fun
Nice.
to be able to sit down and play with him. Like it's so cool to see his evolution of how he didn't know how to even walk in 3D in the beginning, and like within minutes he's just running it. And
I know, isn't that amazing?
I
It's
s-
amazing.
I love the use of games for education, and maybe again, Fortnite's not that prime example of games and education, but it's a great way for kids to want to keep going and continuously learn.
Right on.
Well, Alex, again, that's all I have for you. This has honestly been a dream come true. I appreciate learning what you're doing at Look North World. I think, building community, building on the UEFN network. I think it's so cool to see someone who built huge AAA games over time say, hey, this is a platform that's going to be something, and we're going to invest our time into this. I think it's important for creators to know that there's a lot of people out there, both AAA as well as indies, that are building on these platforms, and they are for real, which people notice by now. So I appreciate that. Before we go, do you have anything else you'd like to say or talk about?
Oh, hey, I totally forgot, Greg. Is it okay if I plug my podcast on your podcast?
Please, yeah.
The fourth curtain is
Fourth curtain.
that's a podcast that I host with my art director Aaron Merriquin, and we talk to industry luminaries about their journey through the game industry. Um, yeah, the season we've had Big Gordon and Mike Morheim, the founder of Blizzard, on. Next week we'll have, you mentioned educational. Do you ever play the Oregon Trail?
Who hasn't?
I know we tracked down the dude who made the Oregon Trail, and Philip's going to be on this next week. So you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. Um, the Fourth Curtain. Thanks,
How do
Greg,
you
for
like the
letting me do
experience of hosting a podcast?
I love it. As you noted, I am an audio guy at heart. I love the format, and if you've been listening to this episode of this podcast, I like to talk too. So it's and I love meeting people, even if they're Jets fans. No, just kidding. Good luck this year.
Rude.
Yeah, no, the podcasting is a great format. I love it.
Awesome. Well, again, Alex, I truly appreciate it. On the Player Driven blog, we'll have links to both the Fourth Curtain to Look Northworld. We'll have information about Alex and everything we spoke about. So, again, I'll say it for a 15th time. Alex, thank you again for not just everything you've created, but your time today. And I wish you the best of luck and have a great day.
Right on. You too. Thank you so much.